Well, I guess I remember at prep school spending a lot of time running around making car noises, but I was a somewhat gawky kid, so I never kind of saw myself as a racing driver. Even at that age, I had a huge enthusiasm for the sport, and Jochen Rindt, after whom we've named our first corner, was my first great racing hero. I was lucky enough to end up being one of the management buyout team of Auto Windscreens, and Auto Windscreens had a long history of being involved in UK motorsports. I was involved with a lot of sponsorship programs, the BTCC in the mid-90s, British Rally Championship, the RAC Rally. So over the years I've sort of stuck my toe in the water being involved with just about all forms of four-wheel motorsport, and that's been another great thing about this place is I've met a lot of old friends who come here testing cars, and we've realised we haven't seen one another for 20 years. I started this in 2003 and we finally signed a lease on Blyton in 2011, and we had quite a lot of false starts along the way. I've looked at just about every disused airfield between the M40 and the M62. We spent a lot of time wasting time and wasting quite a lot of money on abortive projects, and there were times when I thought I'm never going to actually get this off the ground, I'm going to walk away from it. I guess the commercial challenge was the biggest challenge. This isn't just some sort of retirement dream, you know. I've put virtually everything I own into Blyton Park, and it had to stand up as a business, and you know, I'm pleased to say that it's standing up very well. Blyton opened in 1942 as one of many Bomber Command bases in Lincolnshire. It was mainly used throughout the war as a training base for people to learn how to fly Lancasters. And I think on the wall behind me somewhere there is actually a picture of a pilot that we found who's still alive. We have put a memorial up to the airmen because there's no buildings at all left. There were 2,500 people stationed here during the war. And there were an awful lot of accidents because they were learning to fly these bloody great big heavy bombers, and a lot of them crashed. I think there are something like 18 known crash sites around the airfield. We thought it was appropriate to commemorate those brave people. We've seen very expensive Grand Prix cars handed over to their new owners. We had Sterling Moss's 250F Maserati handed over to its new Texan owner here. Because we have a reputation for looking after people, they seem to come back. We do get a lot of fantastically interesting machinery right from the sort of pre-First World War up to about 7 or 8 years ago, and then contemporary stuff as well. I can get enthused about just about anything with four wheels. Sadly, in the windscreen business, every car was given a number, and it worked in chronological order. A number 21 is a Mini, and a number 66 is a Morris 1000. And I can sort of associate cars by the number and how many of those windscreens we used to sell. So the Maestro in the barn, I was approached by an old boy in the village who said, I've got an Austin Maestro, and I didn't get too excited. But then he said, it's done 12,000 miles. I said, what, from new? So in the end, of course, I had to buy the Maestro, and then somebody else offered me a Ford Orion, and then the Orion's done 17,000 miles from new. And their new retirement home is Blyton, and when everyone's gone home, because they would think I was a really sad person, I sometimes get them out and I drive the Maestro around the track and chuckle at really how incredibly ordinary it is, but you know, it's going to live there for as long as I am here, and then hopefully it'll find the Maestro Owners Club. Somebody will want to buy the only Maestro in the UK with 12,000 genuine miles on the clock. I don't get too goosebumpy about it, except when I go up in the air and I look at it down from sort of a few hundred feet above, and you look down and think, my goodness, that's my circuit. The other thing this year was having, as I said, been involved in motorsport for 30 years but never competed. I did actually get my competition license and compete in our own little sprint championship, and my dad was actually involved in building a little sprint circuit near Lichfield called Kerborough, so he did what I've done on a slightly smaller scale, and I did feel a real goosebump when I sort of drew up to the start, being for the first time in my life, and I kind of felt the old man was probably sat on a cloud and sort of smiling away to himself, thinking, you mad boy. I couldn't possibly have done this on my own. You know, I've had a great bunch of people help me along the way, not least of whom my very long-suffering wife, who's not only a huge helper in Blyton Park. She's a partner in it, and without a whole load of people, including the landowner, the farmer that owns it, this just wouldn't have been possible. And like many things in life, there were times when I thought, I'm never going to make this happen. And arriving here in Lincolnshire, we have met some fantastic people who have been fantastically supportive, and you know, I'm actually quite proud to be part of this community. The whole point of this place is that it's not a racing circuit. I actually believe we've got enough racing circuits. What I want Blyton Park to be is a place where if people want to come and learn to race, they can come and do that and move on. But if, like me, all they want to do is to drive nice cars quickly, that they can do that as well. And I truly hope that it doesn't get overdeveloped and become somewhere where that personal touch disappears.